For the first time in American history, there's going to be a cage fight match on the south lawn of the White House. Unless the two people from Virginia win the federal lawsuit they just filed in the D.C. court. Let's get into it. All right, where is this coming from? So in 2025, July 3rd in Des Moines, Iowa, President Trump told everyone that there's going to be a UFC event celebrating America's 250th anniversary, and that's going to be on July 4th of 2026.
Every one of our national park, battlefields, and historic sites are going to have special events in honor of America250, and I even think we're going to have a UFC fight. We're going to have, does anybody watch UFC, the great Dana White? We're going to have a UFC fight. We're going to have a UFC fight. Think of this, on the grounds of the White House. We have a lot of land there. We're going to build a little, we're not, Dana's going to do it. Dana's great, one of a kind. We're going to have a UFC fight, championship fight, full fight, like 20, 25,000 people. And we're going to do that as part of 250 also. We're going to have some incredible events, some professional events, some amateur events, but the UFC fight's going to be a big deal too.
Now, he spun this at first as being 25,000 people in attendance. And from there, within a day or two, I think it was July 4th or 5th, Dana White confirms that he has spoken with President Trump and they are going to work it out. Now, the president did say he wanted all of the title fights to happen, right? If we're going to have a fight on the premise of the White House, we're going to have all the title fights there. So that's where it started. 20 to 25,000, all the title fights, and it's going to be on the lawn of the White House. So where we're at today, we have a 92-foot cage that is currently constructed on the south lawn of the White House. This cage is referred to as the Claw, weighs about 600 tons. So it's not a small structure. There's already starting to have some videos come out of it lighting up at night and showing what it really is going to look like. The area around the south lawn is starting to get shut down. Local news stations are starting to put out information as to what these road closures are going to look like, and major bridges are going to be shut down. When it first came out, they said that Friday night is going to be the press conference. The press conference is going to be at the Lincoln Memorial. Saturday is going to be Fan Fest, and that's going to be on the Ellipse. And then Sunday, obviously, is going to be the fight on the south lawn. The schedule has changed a little bit since then. I think that we're still having a press conference on Friday. And from what we're gathering right now, the weigh-ins are going to be at the Lincoln Memorial, and the fight still taking place on the south lawn. There are reports that the fighters will be walking out from the Oval Office as their entrance into the cage. So that's what we have so far with the events. The card's been picked. The fighters have been picked. The tickets, free to the public. You just had to put your name on a list and put a $1 hold on your card, but it didn't cost you any money. And that was available to the public. The final number of attendees wasn't 20 or 25,000. It was around 4,500 people. And from what's being reported, it's about the majority of military people that are going to be inside of the south lawn kind of secured area. The Ellipse is going to have enough room, I guess, for 100,000 plus to be able to watch it on a big screen. All right, so where did this lawsuit come from, right? It came from two people who live in Virginia. One of them is Susan Douglas. She's a longtime DC activist, and she lives in Virginia. The second person is Paul Romano. He is a Vietnam veteran. And it's important that we start out with how court cases kind of happen, I guess. When you think about the way that the government works or the courts work, when it comes to a civil injunction to stop something from happening, there's a few prongs that need to be met, right? So we need to establish that these two individuals who are trying to put an injunction on this UFC event have jurisdiction, right? So I mentioned that they're from Virginia and the event is happening in DC. So how does two Virginians get attached to the jurisdiction of DC? And so they go into this 35-page PDF and they specifically talk about how often they visit DC, how, Paul wants to go and visit the Vietnam Memorial, and how Susan is an activist and she does a lot of exercise up there and walks and, is around the Capitol Mall area. So the National Capital Region is a pretty large chunk of DC, and it's public place. It's run by the Park Services and the Department of Interior, and they are the ones who kind of say yes or no to events, especially on the Capitol grounds. So an important note here is that Susan is a Democrat and Paul is a Republican. They are putting this together as a bipartisan lawsuit. And I think that's an important distinction. So they are essentially arguing, listen, it's not one side versus the other. It is, here's a Democrat, here's a Republican. We both agree on the same thing. And so it's not a one-sided fight going into this court case. Now, they did hire the Public Integrity Project as the lawyers to fight this. And so we can read in this 35-page document the way that they describe this, and they put it in two words: deeply corrupt. And let's find out why they said it's deeply corrupt. The strongest part of their argument is that there is a hard ban on any sporting events whatsoever on White House property or the Lincoln Memorial. This is found in CFR 36. The Parks Department, the Department of Interior cannot have a sporting event in those places. Now, there's a loophole, and that loophole came in 2025. In 2025, the commission was created for America250. And the America250 Commission said that events can be held at the White House, events can be held at the Lincoln Memorial, on the National Mall, but it has to be planned, approved through the government, and planned and approved through the commission. And this is just a small case of, we know that the anniversary of America is coming up. We like to celebrate this, and we're going to carve out some exceptions to this so that we can have a meaningful 250th anniversary celebration of America. And so, as it may be their strongest point, we're going to look to see why it might not fit into this exception or this loophole. Now, if we follow what America250 and the commission said, they said, hey, we're going to carve out this exception, this loophole, so that America and American citizens and people that are here legally can enjoy the celebration of the 250th anniversary of this country. And to do that, the government would have to purchase event space. They would have to purchase all of the things for it. They'd have to plan this. They'd have to go and provide this to the citizens. And so to kind of fill that prong, UFC said that they're going to lose money on this event because they're not charging any money for it. They're erecting this cage themselves. And when it comes to anything outside of that, they do have sponsors, Crypto.com being one of them, and so is RAM. It's also being reported that the UFC is selling special VIP passes to this event. Even though it's a free event, and the majority of the people inside of the security perimeter will be military and invitees of the administration, of Dana White, of the CEO of TKO Holdings. But if it's being reported that VIP packages are being sold, then that kind of goes against what Dana White initially said about having to lose money, because these VIP packages are being reported as being sold for $1 million to $1.5 million. After this event happens, we will, as we'll come to find out, have to fix and replace the South Lawn. The amount of foot traffic, the 600-ton cage, and all of the structures that are being put up for this event. This lawsuit goes on further to say that this is a private event by a private company for profit that is going to have unfettered access to the White House, to the Lincoln Memorial, to the Ellipse, that they are going to be able to walk freely in these secured areas. And by allowing them to do that, the complainants in this lawsuit don't believe that anybody else would ever be able to enjoy that type of access to the White House or to the National Mall for such an event for their private business. And so that is one part of their argument. And I think it's hard to argue that, because not everyone would be able to fairly enjoy that same privilege. However, the main argument outside of not being able to construct a temporary structure or have a sporting event is that the damages that they're citing after their jurisdiction is aesthetics. They are planning to visit D.C. during the weekend that's coming up, and they've laid out exactly what they were doing. Visiting the Vietnam Veteran Memorial is supposed to be a peaceful experience to be able to reflect on the service members that have given their lives for this country. And that is a part of the argument. It's really how they're enjoining themselves onto this lawsuit after maybe establishing jurisdiction. Now, it is an interesting coincidence that it is on President Trump's birthday. It's not on July 4th. The commission doesn't own this event and says, we have nothing to do with this. We only share the name. We didn't approve this. And so the injunction sits. On Monday, the federal court asked, hey, bring forth whatever you're going to bring forth as your representative, because they attached the Park Services and the Department of Interior. And so we'll wait and find out. My take on this is it's like a twofold. I think that the event's going to go forward regardless. I think that posing this lawsuit within a week of the event puts the judge into an awkward position. I think that the jurisdiction in which these two people are claiming is rocky, but I can understand where they're coming from. Where I am concerned is this public-private partnership and advertisement. They specifically note in this court case that one of the advertisers, and there's only two that I've been able to find, Crypto.com and Ram Trucks. Crypto.com is a Singaporean company, and the advertisements for this event are going to be on government property. Now, should that be allowed? I don't personally think so. I don't think that the side of the Lincoln Memorial should have Crypto.com written on it. I don't think that Ram Trucks should be on a poster board outside of the Oval Office. Not because I have anything against those companies, but I do have a problem with private companies being advertised on government property. And as I've gone and looked for these advertisers, right, I've come across Paramount Plus. Paramount Plus is the one who is charging $8.99 to watch the main event. So, as we may say that this is a free event, to watch the main card, you do have to pay $8.99. So, is it really for America 250? Does this represent our celebration of America? I think in some ways, maybe. If that's something that you enjoy, sure. The controversy that we are seeing within the UFC community is split. And I think that they're playing both sides. Sean Strickland had made a comment about Israel, more specifically about the president, Netanyahu. Now, Sean Strickland, being a world champion himself, was just planning on attending this fight. After those statements came out, he got a call from Dana White that said, hey, the White House says you can't come. Something about the background, or you didn't make it on the list. When it was reported that he was already coming anyway, that he already had tickets. And so the criticism of a allied country, in this case, appears on the surface to have excluded an American citizen from attending a UFC event that he is a world champion in, even if it's just for the attendance. He's not fighting. And some of the other fighters have spoken out about this. They've said that the government is not supposed to be this big. The government is there to protect and serve. It is there to uplift its citizens and give resources to the citizens when needed, and that this is a overstep of its responsibilities. And so there is a little bit of back and forth. Looking back at previous presidents, I went back as far as I could go. And the closest thing I could find to this was Roosevelt having boxing matches where he trained with boxing and jiu-jitsu at the White House. But there was no event that was sponsored by a private company. This administration obviously drums to their own beat. And a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people don't care. A lot of people are for it. What I can tell you is that it is concerning for capitalism. If you have the company of Tesla bring all their cars up there and have a mixed bag of emotions of these are the greatest cars ever, and we're going to have a UFC fight, and Ram Trucks and Crypto.com and all of these companies, if they are allowed to participate in our government for advertisement, and the government gets nothing in return other than entertainment, and good and bad press, I don't think that that is the appropriate use of our government. From everything I can find, it doesn't look like any of this is going to cost money from the Treasury, from the taxpayers, from the executive branch. I haven't found anything that would suggest that. And so is the argument really we don't like to have the public-private partnerships when it comes to sporting events or any events? Or is the complaint that we are favoring one industry or one particular company or specific companies in specific industries, which helps boost their sales? Earlier this year, it was reported that Donald Trump had bought stock in TKO Holdings. I think it was about $50,000, somewhere in that ballpark. And so people are arguing that he stands to benefit from the success of TKO Holdings, the parent company of UFC. I think that that is an argument, sure. I don't think that they are wrong in saying that. But I can tell you that $50,000 for someone who has billions of dollars is not going to fill their pockets the way that it is being reported. Is it gross? Is it inappropriate? Yes. Is it the get-rich-quick scheme? Absolutely not. Is it insider trading? Sure, it is. I don't know how you could describe that because he bought that this year after the event had already been announced. And that is a violation, and I think that should be addressed. And so I think you do run into more problems when the administration and our government partners publicly on a spectacle, on an event, on a sporting outing, whatever it may be, and allows advertisers onto the National Mall. The Secret Service is losing its mind. This is a Tier 1 operation. I can't imagine the amount of law enforcement that will be there. If you've ever been to an event in D.C., when there's a lot of people, you will see these vehicles, usually a black SUV, and sometimes you'll see these little portable towers. And just pay attention to those. Just pay attention to where your cell phone is, what's on your cell phone, what could be captured in these devices. Because some of them are there to stop signals, right? So they want to make sure that the communication cannot be easily accessible in a big crowd. And that's for the protection of the government, right? If you were planning to do something nefarious at one of these events, they don't want you to be able to rapidly communicate outside of the event or inside of the event. And so those are really what they are for, but there is dual use with trap and trace and different things that the government can use, especially when they have increased their threat assessment level. So just be aware of those things. This is going to be a Tier 1, and take it seriously if you're going to go up there or be around that area. Friday is when everything's going to start getting shut down. I think that some of the smaller roads may be getting shut down around Thursday. So just expect traffic, especially if 100,000 people may be on the ellipse, just to watch. To keep up with what Congress is doing, what our government is doing, go check out our website. It's called govwatch.app, GOVWATCH.app. Go check us out. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us. Stay up to date with what's going on in the news and our government. Until next time.